However, Sanjeed Bhai over here came from a very humble institution in Mymensingh where his tuition per month was like approximately $5, and then he got a full-ride scholarship at MIT. So it is possible. Hi everyone, for those new to my channel, I am Seeam, a Bangladeshi rising senior studying applied math at Harvard. This playlist is where I interview amazing applicants who got into top universities, whether it be undergrad, whether it be master's or PhD, and try to take a deep dive into their profile. If you want more content like this about other universities, please subscribe below and smash that like button so that we can bring you more content and the videos reach more people. So today, without any delay, I would like to introduce our guest. He's none other than Sanzeed Anwar, MIT's class of 2020 from Bangladesh. It's a pleasure having him on the show. Sanjeed Bhai, could you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Seeam. It's a pleasure to be here as well. Hi everyone, I'm Sanzeed. I am from Mymensingh, Bangladesh. I spent my life in Mymensingh until I came to MIT. I'm MIT class of 2020. I did my major in computer science with a minor in mathematics. And yeah, that's basically me.
Okay, that's a brief introduction. I like it. For the viewers out there, Sanjeed Bhai over here comes from Mymensingh, Bangladesh. There might be a lot of preconceived notion that if you did not go to a fancy school or an English medium top school in Bangladesh, you cannot get into top institutions like MIT. However, Sanjeed Bhai over here came from a very humble institution in Mymensingh where his tuition per month was like approximately $5, and then he got a full-ride scholarship at MIT. So it is possible to get in. However, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of hard work. And today we are going to come and discover the truth. What does it take to get into MIT from such a humble institution in Bangladesh? So Sanjeed Bhai, let's start with the standardized exam scores. What type of exams did you give? What were your scores and how much did they contribute to your application?
So I took the standard SATs, the SAT subject tests, and TOEFL. So one thing I would like to specify is that I took the SATs before the current structure was introduced. So I took them in 2015. And I think my scores were fairly decent. I got like around 2,200 in SAT. Since I already come from an Olympiad background, I did math Olympiad for quite a while. I started back in 2009, and I went to 3 IMOs in 2014, 15, and 16. So the math part was not really much of a problem for me, but for the writing and the reading part, I had to work quite a bit. I still remember that right before I took the SATs, I had probably one of the most productive times in my entire life. I kind of sat there working on improving my writing and speaking skills and taking practice tests, like, pretty much every day, doing exercises and everything. I took TOEFL in like 2015 as well, and I got I think it was 109.
Okay.
And I think my preparations for the SAT reading helped me quite a bit for like TOEFL reading, because if anything, like, it's not more complicated than the SAT reading.
Yeah.
I guess as for the listening and speaking parts, I found it especially helpful to watch movies or TV shows, and doing one really peculiar thing, which is that I take monologues from my favorite characters in like different movies or books and kind of like just imitate those in my head whenever.
Oh wow.
So like It's kind of fun because when I came to MIT, I got like slowly I got into D&D, and that was like basically all about role playing. And you kind of do the exact same thing. You role play some other character. So like that helps you quite a bit in improving your speaking skills and like your fluency and everything. So yeah, those are my standardized tests.
What were the scores in your SAT subject test, if you remembered them?
So I took math, physics, and chemistry.
Okay.
And I got 800 in math, 790 in physics, and 780 in chemistry.
Okay.
So one fun fact is that when I was taking the SAT subject tests, I was much more confident about chemistry compared to physics because my dad is a professor in chemistry, a college professor back in Mymensingh, and I was like, okay, I kind of grew up with this subject, so I should be very comfortable with this. So what happened is that I ended up leaving quite a few questions blank in the physics tests, whereas like I tried to go for like 100 out of 100 in chemistry, and that kind of backfired me because I lost more points trying to answer questions I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I guess one very specific advice I should be giving about the standardized test is that they're not just about your skills; they're also about practice. Like out of all the exams I've ever taken, these exams are like practice affects these exams more than any other exams I've ever taken. So like practice more, devise a good test strategy, and that will help you a lot.
Okay. So to recap what Sanjeed Bhai said, he got around 2200 plus ish in his standardized SAT. He did very well on the math part because coming from an Olympiad background. His subject tests were 800, 790, and 780 in math, physics, chemistry, respectively. And he did TOEFL score of 109. MIT, I think, requires above 100, so that puts you above the cutoff, and that's all you need in terms of the English proficiency exam. I agree 100% with his tip on saying these are some of the SAT exams are some of the exams which are most dependent on practice. The more you practice, the better you get at them. So it is really important that you practice a lot. There isn't some inherent thing that, okay, if you're like super smart, inherently you're gonna get like a top score, and otherwise it's a doomsday for you. The more you practice, the better you get. I remember I gave my first practice exam after my HSCs in the SAT, and I got somewhere around like lower 1400s. But very soon after a bit of practice in Khan Academy, I started getting at the upper 1500s when I was giving this SAT out of 1600, and I realized that practice does make a difference. So I agree 100% with Sanjeed Bhai. The more you practice, the better your shot. Thank you for sharing that. Moving on to academic results.
Yeah.
What institution did you attend while you were in Bangladesh for your grades 9 through 12? What were your results, and how did it affect your application?
So I attended Mymensingh Jila School for grade 9 and 10, and then I moved on to the college branch of Ananda Mohan College for grade 11 and 12. For anyone who's not familiar with the Bangladeshi system, this is how it works here. For at least for Bangla medium.
Yeah.
And my academics were, I think, pretty good. There were a few points where I had to kind of focus on both training for the Olympiad and also for like basically school/college. But even then, I think I did fairly well. I was in like the top 5 of my class pretty much regularly. So that was
out of how many students? Because Jela schools are huge, right? As far as I know.
Yeah, I think in Jila school we had about 300 students.
Okay.
When I moved to grade 11 and 12, I think we had like around 400 students.
Okay.
So it's like a pretty big class that we had.
Yeah. So you're kind of in like the top 1% throughout.
Yeah. And so one thing I'd like to mention is that when I was taking the academic exams for my classes and like for class rankings and etc. or like GPA, then I had like a competitive nature. When I went into the exam hall, I was like, okay, I need to like do well. Like outside that, I was not particularly competitive in the sense that I wasn't aiming to get to the top of my class every time I picked up a book academic book to read it. Outside the exam hall, my goal was to make sure that whatever I'm reading, I understand it properly, and like I get the class material well enough so that I can recreate it myself and like I can explain it to someone else as well.
Okay.
So it helped me a lot.
Okay. So what I'm getting from you is that yes, you were competitive during studying for the exams, but outside you really focused on understanding the material, seeing if you have the capacity to teach it to someone else, and that really helped you a lot along the way. That is fantastic advice. I feel a lot of us have been trained to become exam takers in Bangladesh or just in Asia in general, from what I'm seeing, and it is also important according to you, or at least for you, it worked out well that you really focused on learning the material well, something Khan Academy emphasizes on over and over again.
Yeah.
So that is good advice. I would like to move on to extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
So what were your major extracurricular activities, biggest achievement in each type, and any special advice or stories?
Let's see. I mean, definitely Math Olympiad was a huge part of my life. Like I started from 2009 when I was just in grade 6, and I continued until I was in grade 12. And even when I came to MIT, I took part in like the Putnam math competition.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a part of my life since like I was in grade 6. So that's definitely one of the biggest extracurricular activities I've had in my life. And I guess the biggest achievement is going to the international level and winning a medal there.
Which medal did you win for the audience?
So I won a silver medal in the International Math Olympiad in 2015. I also won a couple of bronze medals in the Asian Pacific Math Olympiad.
Okay.
So yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest accomplishments in high school. The other accomplishment I really want to mention is that we had a math club back in Mymensingh called the Mymensingh Parallel Math School. The idea of parallel math is that Olympiad math is kind of quite separate from academic math, no matter like what medium you are in Bangladesh. So our idea was that, okay, we're doing all this academic math, and that's like definitely helping helping to form our base, but we're also doing all these advanced math that are kind of parallel to the academic curriculum. So that's where the Parallel Math School name came from. Originally, we started in 2009, and I was just a member, and we had Shoumitra Bhai, who was basically demonstrating to us on like different topics, and like we learned a lot from him. Like basically, my Olympiad base was formed with his help. And then like later on, as he got busier and busier, the ones among us who went on to participate in math camps and maybe take part in international math Olympiads, we took over the whole instructor role, and we kept it going until like a very long time, pretty much until we left Mymensingh and came to MIT. Adib and I were instructing right before we even came to MIT, and I think there are still people instructing there, and it's still like, if not for the quarantine, it should have been like a pretty active club even now. And that's definitely a huge part of my high school life, because we also won the prize for the best math club in the country. I think in like 2013 or 2014, and it was amazing to get to know all these younger people and kind of guide them through the same path that we've taken, and kind of ignite the passion for math in them. So that's another very big ECA that I have. Outside that, I was pretty active in my school, participating in debate/public speaking, or say chess. And I think this is a very good general advice for anyone who's trying to build their ECA profile. You don't have to go out of your way to do something extremely huge, such as like building up a social movement or something like that. Sure, like definitely there are people like that, and they're definitely amazing for what they're doing, but you don't have to feel like, okay, everything I do has to be in that scale. All you have to do is to be like active in all the activities that goes on in your school, and you will end up with a fairly decent ECA profile. I think that's one thing that a lot of people forget, and a lot of people should remember.
That is fantastic advice. Trying to focus in on what kind of happened there. So a lot of people might really be afraid seeing that, okay, he comes from a math Olympiad background, and there goes my chance of getting into top schools. But I like to focus on what Math Olympiad in his case stands for. If you notice closely, he has been doing math from like grade 6. And that amount of passion for any extracurricular activity that impacts your intellectual growth or your community's growth in a positive way for 6 to 7 years, by basically building up a math club, continuing to mentor students, doing math hours after hours, you could really replace the variable math here, variable, with anything else, and you can have a solid ECA. It could be coding, it could be planting trees for environmental awareness, it could be working on a clothing startup or a shop, it could be anything that shows dedication for a prolonged period. And I think that is something that doesn't have to change the world or your country or your state, but have a net positive impact for a long time in the community around you. And that is what we like to focus on. And Math Olympiad kind of does that alongside growing and building a math club. And that's why these are the people who kind of get into top places like MIT. Thank you so much for really showing by example what it means to have a good ECA. Let's move on to your essays.
Yeah.
What were, on a very high level, things you focused on your successful essays?
So in my essays, I kind of try to tell a personal story, as in, like obviously I wrote my essays about some of my ECAs and some of the activities that I was passionate about, and some of the activities that I probably want to pursue in my future. But I wrote about them from more of a personal perspective. For example, like I started doing math from grade 6, but the path wasn't like completely uphill. It wasn't like, okay, I got into math in grade 6. In grade 7, I got a whole bunch of prizes. In grade 8, I got a team. It didn't work like that. The first 2 years I participated in like the national level of Math Olympiad, I got no prizes. I just returned empty-handed. And that is fine, because I was young and I was still learning, and it helped me kind of ignite that passion of math in me. Sort of like the passion that, okay, I need to get better, I need to understand these things to like a deeper level. And I wrote about that struggle. My Common App essay was really focused on how I faced the struggles and how I kind of how I overcame them and how I persevered through all of it. And I think that's what it matters. Like, unless you're giving whoever's reading your essay a hint of your own person through your essay, I don't think it's like fully effective. They have to see through all of these achievements into what you really are, and what kind of person you are, what kind of student you are, and what kind of ambitions you have, and what kind how stubborn you are, etc. And I think that's an important part when writing an essay. You really want them to have a glimpse into your true self.
Yeah, I think that is one thing. Like, I really try to investigate what do these math / physics, or insert any Olympiad students, kind of have in common. And it is like, through this one competition and through this one pursuit of intellectual interest, they kind of demonstrate a lot of amazing traits that really shine through in college applications. Perseverance, getting back up every time you fail. And I think that tells a lot about a person's character. A lot of people, when they would look at Sanzeed Bhai's application, would see, okay, this guy has like a silver medal in an IMO. For God's sake, he must have been a genius, since he was born, must have done multivariable calculus in grade 1 or something. But that is not the story. The story is starting from a very humble beginning in grade 6, failing multiple times, telling himself that he's not good enough, or feeling like a stupid person every time he went up and faced big mathematicians in that arena, and yet kind of continuing to do it because that's what he was passionate about. And he could really replace math with almost anything in that journey. And if they demonstrate the same traits, I think it is fair to say you have a solid shot. And that is kind of what Sanzeed Bhai's story is demonstrating. How do you show traits that really tell that, okay, this is a person who's driven, ambitious, and doesn't really back down from failure in a stubborn in general.
I totally agree. So a few things I want to add to what Seeam just said. One, I'm still not a fan of calculus, and still not. And two is that I like to mention this story to basically this anecdotal story to anyone who wants to talk about these things. When people I forgot the name of the mountaineer, but there was a famous mountaineer, and it's quite possibly Tenzing Norgay, who basically was the first one to climb Mount Everest. So I'm not 100% sure if it was really.
Yeah, I won't quote you on that, but
so when the journalist kind of asked him, okay, why do you climb these mountains? What's the point? And his reply was straight up, because they're there.
Yeah.
And my passion for math, or trying to help people understand, learn math, comes from kind of the same source. I'm doing it because I love doing it, and it's just there for me to do it. It's not because I was not particularly aiming at turning this into one of my ECAs.
Yeah.
Or turning this into a profitable thing for me. In the long run, it ended up being one. But when I began, my idea was that, okay, I absolutely love solving these problems, and I want to keep solving them.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember, if you start with that passion and keep it up, it doesn't matter if you're doing Math Olympiad or Physics Olympiad or art or debate or coding, you will end up with a really good ECA.
Yeah, I think I was reading this interview, don't quote me on that as well, but after the Social Network movie was released, I think, based on Facebook's rise and Zuckerberg's story, I think there they showed that Zuckerberg kind of built Facebook because he wanted to become popular and get the attention of a girl he was trying to. He got rejected by. When he saw that, he's like, these movies or media kind of wants to show that we had this incentive that, okay, I want to get back on a girl, or I want money, or I want power, and that's why we build things. But they often forget that a lot of top entrepreneurs just build things because they like to build things.
Yeah.
And I think that is something important as well. Like Sanjeev bhai, when he started, he didn't like plan out, according to him, that, okay, like 6 years from now, when I'm turning in that MIT application, this is it. This is gonna give me that big tech 150K salary. This is it. He did not do that. He saw a math problem and he was like, I like solving such problems. Let's keep on doing it against all odds. And I think that's what shines through. That's what really shows someone is passionate about something. And it would be a bummer if you're watching this interview and you think, oh, damn, but I don't like solving math problems. Hey, it's fine. Try out new things. Hopefully you will find yours. Moving on to the next section of our interview, which is recommendation letters. Who wrote your recommendation letters, and why did you ask them to do that for you?
So I guess there are 3 recommendation letters that you are kind of required to provide for Common App, which is like from your school counselor, and like one from a science/math teacher, and one from a
humanities.
Yeah. So I provided all of those. Like the counselor recommendation basically came from the principal of of the institution I went to for grade 11 and 12, Anandamon College. And then I asked one of my math professors and one of my English professors to basically write recommendation letters for me. And I kind of had the advantage that they knew me from even before I started going to Anandamon College. So they had a better idea of who I am and what kind of things I do, etc. I also asked my coach, Dr. Mohammed Mujumdar, from the International Math Olympiad team, to write a recommendation letter for me, and Mahbub sir wrote that. And I think he also had a pretty good idea about me, because I've been going to I went to math camps since 2012 up to 2016. So he had already seen me quite a few times. And we've gone to IMOs together. He was part of our team as well, so he has had a chance to take a closer look at me. And I don't know what exactly he wrote about me, but I'm guessing it's a good one because I'm here.
Yeah, it worked.
Right. So yeah, I'm really grateful to Mahbub sir, because he really helped us through this application process a lot. And even without the application process, he's been working for the math team voluntarily for all this time, and basically guiding us all and figuring out very effective training structures for all of us. And I think the results are self-explanatory.
Yeah.
For that. So yeah, those were my recommendations. I guess for the teacher recommendations, they as far as I know, they focused more on my different kinds of activities that I did, and especially anything that I tried to do within schools, and what type of student I was for the academic side. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I think one thing that's important to focus on and give a shout out is that Mahbub sir, like you said, does play, I've heard, a huge role in the growth of the IMO teams throughout the years in Bangladesh. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that I think did play a huge role in just the growth of Bangladesh IMO circuit. I think Bangladesh math teams have produced great results throughout the years. And we must give a shout out to this person who did contribute a lot in fostering this environment, along with the wonderful students who are trying their heart and soul to represent the country. It seems that Sanjit Bhai basically went to recommendation providers who knew him for quite a long time, like 4 to 5 years, both inside and outside the classroom. And that is important. A lot of people be like, oh, I'm applying to Harvard. Should I get a recommendation from like the prime minister or something? Or like, do I go to like Muhammad Yunus to give me a recommendation because I want to major in economics? No, you don't. You just need to go to someone who knows you well and can say good things about you. So that was almost the end of our interview. The final section is the overall advice. If you want to apply again, what would you do differently? And what are some things that future applicants are better off knowing?
I guess like I don't think I would do anything super differently if I were to go back to that time again. Because again, as I said, it was like the preparation for this whole application thing was one of the few like most productive periods of my entire life. And my advice would be that at points it's gonna seem really difficult. At points you're gonna feel like, okay, like I have absolutely no chance. But the moment you lose to yourselves is the moment you lose to everyone else as well, especially the admission committee. So always be confident, because like otherwise that's gonna also affect your essay writing, and those are really important. Try to express your true self. There is like, I don't think it makes sense to add like superficial layers onto your essays and your applications. Try to be a true self, try to explain your passions. And one specific question that I always keep getting is like how to build ECAs. I'm just gonna the general idea is that try to be an active student in your school from the get-go, and that will already give you plenty of opportunity to build up ECA. And I think that's one of the things that made me special, because, well, not made me special, I'm no one special, because it's just that that's one of the things that helped me a lot, is because I was super active in my school. I tried to take part in all the activities that interested me, and it was possible for me to take part into. Like, I was never near sports. I was not built for that, and I didn't go near that. But I was really interested in like taking part in things like art / like public speaking, etc. And I did that. And did I do that just to build ECA? No, I did that just because like I was active and the opportunities just came in front of me, and I was like, okay, I usually do these things, let me just do these things. So I suggest doing that, and that will really help you a lot in the long run.
Okay, so there are a few advice out there that you just gave. Let me try to recap and like focus on the ones that I think are also very important. One is like being an active student. I think a lot of the times we don't necessarily do things just for ECAs. We do things because we like to grow as a person. We like to help those around us. And that kind of like worked for you. You were active, and the more active you are, I'm saying this because being active, like a lot of people say that, okay, I'm introverted, I can't be active. I think that's wrong. Being introverted and being shy are two different things. And you can be active even being an introvert, and you can do things that help you grow. And that kind of has a very compounding effect, that the more active you become, the more opportunities you get exposed to, and the faster you kind of grow. And I think that is important to take advantage of during like high school. Another advice that he kind of focused on, I think it's really important, that really work hard, don't give up. And I think it's very cliched, and you might be thinking of Sanjeev Bhai just like imagining him giving push-ups or something, because that's what they show in in a lot of videos. But that is the truth. Like, you have to work hard, a few years, few months at stretches to like get to your goal. And I think that is important for those watching it. Like, really work hard, don't give up. The moment you fail to yourself is kind of the moment that you just fail for everyone. And I think when I look back to my college admission times, I think I agree with Sanjeev that that's also one of the most productive times that I have had. I had to like study 12 or 13 hours kind of every day for like 6 or 7 months because I was like preparing for so many things, admissions, medical exams, Tokyo University, and all that. And like at like a lot of the times I really felt like giving up, but I was like, hey, you know what? I took an oath for myself. If I give up now, this will become a habit and I will give up every time. So really being true to yourself. And finally, be authentic. Sanjeev focused on being authentic, showing your true self. It doesn't really need you to like put a couple of layers that are not true about you. You don't have to show that you're a person who's like skydiving every day, doing philanthropic work the next day, and breaking difficult equations the other day. You don't have to do all that. You just have to be true to yourself, have something that you're passionate about, and stick to it. So those are the general advice. I hope that everyone watching this found this interview inspiring. If you could not relate, I hope in this playlist there are other interviews that you can relate with. And in the days to come, we'll be focusing on a lot of other universities and a lot of type of activities. So if you really want to find something that you can relate to and inspire you, please subscribe. Smash that like button. You have to do it. Otherwise, it won't reach more people. I request you, and I hope we can bring more interviews to you that you would be able to relate to. Please let me know in the comment section about any requests at all. I do take them seriously. Like the first Harvard interview that I published, one person was like, interview Itiza from San Joseph. And I really listened to that suggestion. And the next week I released an interview with Itiza. So I'll keep on doing this because MIT requests were so frequent and Sanjeev Bhai was around and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So please subscribe, comment below, let me know. Otherwise I can't help you. I hope you like this. Thank you so much, Sanjeev Bhai, for your time.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm glad that I'm getting to share at least some of the experiences I have had through this application process with people who might be interested. So yeah, thanks for giving me that chance.